about politics, you know about the law, but do you know about pop culture?
Still ahead, the co-hosts are giving the president a pop quiz.
I will ask Michelle when I get home what's going on.
President Barack Obama. Whoopi, I know you had something on your mind.
Well, I do, Mr. President. You know, you took a lot of flack for passing the stimulus bill, thank you, and helping out the banks, and then you took a lot of flack because people felt you didn't do enough with the folks who were responsible. They didn't go to jail, nobody got into trouble. So now I'm wondering, because I watched this J.P. Morgan Chase thing just go down, I'm wondering, A, what do you think happened? And B, sir, what are you going to do about it? Because there's got to be, this has to be the last straw.
Well, look, first of all, J.P. Morgan is one of the best managed banks there is. Jamie Dimon, the head of it, is one of the smartest backers we got. And they still lost $2 billion in counting, precisely because they were making bets in these derivative markets. We don't know all the details yet. It's going to be investigated. But this is why we passed Wall Street reform. The whole point was, even if you're smart, you can make mistakes. And since these banks are insured, backed up by taxpayers, we don't want you taking risks where eventually we might end up having to bail you out again. Because we've done that, been there, didn't like it. So this is why we raise capital requirements, so that when they do lose money, they've got enough money socked away that they can pay off those obligations. This is why we've put in place something called the Volcker Rule that says, you know what, if you are a federally insured, supported bank, you can't make bets on your own trades with your own money that could end up resulting in $2 billion or $3 billion losses, because think about it, this is the best, or one of the best managed banks.
Right.
You could have a bank that isn't as strong, isn't as profitable, making those same bets, and we might have had to step in. And that's exactly why Wall Street reform is so important. Now, we're still fighting this battle because all these regulations are being put in place as we speak. A lot of the financial industry is still fighting them. Right. They've hired tons of lobbyists to push back on this stuff. And so I hope that everybody who's watching is letting their members of Congress know, you know what, we want these rules in place to make sure this kind of stuff does not happen again.
That's a lot of dough.
That's real money.
That's a lot of dough.
That is real money. Even for you, Whoopi.
Specifically, though, Romney, are you kidding?
Specifically, though, Mr. President, you have all of these things that are in place, some working, some not. Are you, as the federal government, going to do anything more so that this doesn't happen?
Well, keep in mind, if we get all the rules that we proposed and were passed by Congress implemented into law, it should prevent this kind of stuff from happening. But this, again, is going to be part of what the election's about. We've got real differences here because Governor Romney, members, some of the Republican members of Congress, and the financial industry have been arguing that this is unnecessary, that this is impeding capital formation, it's making it harder to lend to businesses, et cetera. And what I've said is, look, we want a successful financial industry. That's always been one of the hallmarks of America. But what makes us the best financial industry is transparency, accountability, rules, so that small investors feel like if they put their money into Wall Street, it's not going to suddenly just disappear. They're not going to be defrauded. We want the banking industry to do what it does best, which is allocate capital to a small business, to some entrepreneur who wants to start something, to help families finance a home or buy a car or send their kids to college. That's what makes for a strong banking industry, and that's why you'll hear us talk about this during the course of the next 4 or 5 months. It is my strong belief that we've got to have vigorous enforcement of these rules that we just passed.
Mr. President, I have been on this show for 16 years, and so has Joy. This is the first time that we have all sat and not done crosstalk.
I
We
know. I'm
thank
very
you.
impressed. I'm a little nervous about it. They're so well behaved.
This is
I have
not
another
us.
question for you, Mr. President. I believe it was with Matt Lauer in 2009. You sat down, you were talking about the economy, and you said, in 3 years, I'll be held accountable.
Right.
If I don't have this thing done, quote, in 3 years, then there's going to be a one-term proposition. Admittedly so, in our first segment, you said that Americans are still feeling the hurt of this
Right.
economy. So how do you grade yourself, honestly, in terms of how you've done in terms of economics in this country?
You know, I won't give us a letter grade. I think it's still incomplete. We've still got work to do. What I can tell you is that because of the steps we took, the economy is much stronger than it was when I came into office. Basically, we have seen 2.5 years of consecutive job growth, economic growth, and you know, we still have some headwinds out there. Europe is still weak, and that ends up creating uncertainty for the business community here. Gas prices were high. They're starting to come down a little bit, but a lot of families who have to drive, 40, 50 miles to get to work, they're still feeling the pinch. And as I said, the housing market is probably the area where you're still seeing the biggest drag on the economy. So, but as we were talking about Joe Biden, Joe has a favorite expression. He says, "Don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative." And I think what you'll see in this campaign is two very different visions about how we move the country forward. I believe that we've got to invest in things like education, making college affordable, science and technology, rebuilding our roads, rebuilding the country, that all those things can be done in a sensible way while we're bringing our deficits down in a balanced way. I think that everybody sitting on this couch is probably going to have to pay a little bit more in taxes, so we don't have to raise taxes for middle-class families. And that's a different view from what Mr. Romney believes. And that's a legitimate debate to have. I think this is going to be a really important election and an eye-opening election for
There
people.
are some critics who say that Mr. Romney is a rich man who is out of touch. Is that accurate?
Yeah, my sense is he loves his family. I think he's been very successful, and we should applaud success in this country. But he has a different vision about how to move the country forward. His theory is that if you slash taxes even further, if you leave business, banks, whoever, to do whatever it is that they want, then everything will be okay.
But that didn't work last time.
Well,
what makes them think it's going to work this time?
That's my argument.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the great thing is the American people are going to settle it, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a short break, but we are actually so glad that President Obama is going to stay with us. We'll be right back.
Still ahead, the president has an intimate look at family life in the White House and what his kids' basketball team think about having the leader of the free world as their coach.